My name is Matt Dyer, and I'm the CEO of the Zilliqa blockchain.
Talk to me about the Zilliqa blockchain.
Zilliqa blockchain is one of the OG public blockchains in the world.
So you're on the front line.
On the front line, dealing with retail, dealing with investors, dealing with brands, so it's quite an exciting position to be in.
Okay, so you're dealing with a lot of brands, luxury brands I presume as well. A luxury brand comes to you and says, Matt, I want to incorporate blockchain, Web3 into my business. What do you say to them?
It's a difficult question to answer, but if you think about any brand, they're trying to understand where the value is for their business, and they're fully aware that there's an opportunity to onboard the younger, the Gen Zs of this world, and they come to Zilliqa really about trying to understand how do they step into our space. A big challenge is obviously they've got brand reputation to be thinking about. Where are the use cases around where this has been done before? And from a Zilliqa standpoint, we've been at the cutting edge for a long, long time, and we can evidence to them where things have worked, where they've not worked, and things that they can then incorporate into their digital strategy moving forward. So we're in quite a nice position in that respect. Sometimes I see us as being the new Accenture or Salesforce of the kind of the Web3 space.
Okay, so you talked about brands coming up to you. You said you have examples. From where?
So it's quite interesting. We've partnered in the, entertainment space with a few esports brands, Ninjas in Pajamas, Mad Lions, RRQ, and they came to us to understand how can we get closer to the fans. They've got a lot of fans all over the world. The fans actually like the players rather than the actual brands. So they want to work out how can we use digital assets to try and work out that connection to those fans. So Web3 very much has played the new CRM for this kind of new digital generation. And through that, we can start to kind of apply some of the learnings to these luxury brands who are similarly trying to work out who their fans are or who their fans may be longer term.
But I'm a luxury brand. I'm like, whoa, Matt, esports, what's that got to do with the watch I make or the shoes or the suit I tailor?
So it's very much about how do you engage the fan? What are things that they can do? What are the quests? What are the points? The younger generation engage in a totally different way that maybe people of my generation don't understand. But through the learnings that we've had around this engagement, we've definitely seen a mechanism to onboard and from their perspective upsell into those fans when before they didn't understand how to do that. So it's very much around, even in the classic world, around the data points, around what is the propensity to buy. And through the quests and the engagement, we've started to see a pattern that we can then explain and articulate to these luxury brands or other brands in the space, and then they can apply it to their own environment.
But surely they might say, oh, but this might change what I represent as a brand.
I think change is inevitable for any brand or organization, and it's very much about keeping the sentiment of who you are as a brand and kind of migrating that into the digital realm. You don't need to lose the ethos of who you are. So Huntsman might play in the digital realm, and you need to kind of keep the authenticity of what your brand is, but then try and, get into the minds of the consumer around how do we onboard a new generation, because otherwise you're not going to be here in 100 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what does that look like for a brand to get involved with Zilliqa and with the technology you're offering?
So it's not necessarily just Zilliqa from a blockchain perspective. We're just an enabler. We're just the rails to support this. It's very much around sitting down from a group level, trying to understand what are the activations are you looking to do? What is the pop-up? What music do you need to kind of make pervasive through that experience? And then in terms of the blockchain layer, we're very much around how do we support the value transfer from that experience to the fan, to the creator, and to the brand. And I think that is the essence of Web3. It's the mindset shift that maybe the brand can't take all the equity and profit, but starting to distribute that in a different way. And the blockchain, in terms of the technology stack, is an enabler for that capability.
There's a lot of different aspects to the Zilliqa group, MetaMinds, Zilliqa blockchain, and so on. How do you avoid not working in silos? How do you keep that line of communication and collaboration fluid?
Yeah, I think a key component is when we speak to brands, we're going in and asking them, what is the business challenge? What are your drivers? What are you trying to activate? And through that dialogue, it's very clear that this could be the solution that we present back, and not necessarily focusing in on the specific business. So whether that's gaming, whether that's music, whether that's spatial web, all these things are part of the activation. And quite quickly, you no longer need to explain to an organization who these different businesses are. And I think that's really important in terms of speaking to brands. It's not about the technology. It's around how you're going to essentially drive revenue, community, growth, awareness. And that's something I think, from my perspective, I feel is a massive differentiator for Zilliqa Group in terms of talking to these brands.
A holistic approach.
A holistic approach. I think very much in our space, it's a tech-driven sector. Everyone talks about tech, ZK, block speed, all these things that are really quite dull if you're kind of going to strip it back. So we very much go in, talk about experiences, talk about opportunities, and brands resonate and warm to those sorts of conversations.
And that's part of Zilliqa's onboarding process?
Yeah, onboarding in blockchain and crypto is particularly challenging. And over the years, we have tried quite a few pilots in terms of blockchain and what works and what doesn't work. And through that process, in terms of the blockchain, the brand new blockchain that we're going to be launching soon, we've taken a lot of learnings around what has and hasn't worked. So we've got this concept of X shards as a kind of a component or a feature of our blockchain. And when I sit here in this room today and you can see everything around tailoring your specific garment for that individual, our X shards are very much around tailoring an experience to match what that customer requires. And I'm really quite excited about that, in that you take away the complexity of the blockchain and deliver the outcome in terms of the user journey based on the capability that we've built in. A lot of times blockchains are very generic. They kind of don't offer that tailored experience. And I think offering that differentiation is going to be massive USP for the Zilliqa Group as we talk to these luxury brands.
It's interesting because from my point of view, there's only probably I perceive there to only be one blockchain. But as you say, you're offering a bespoke blockchain, a tailored blockchain. Yeah,
we're very much around interoperability, but the onboarding component needs to be tailored to that outcome and very much about a user-centric journey. And by virtue of this X shard feature, we're in a really strong position to deliver that user journey that's kind of tailored specifically to brands that want to kind of work with us, which is very helpful. So rather than having the conversation around workarounds to deliver an outcome, the flexibility offered by the X shards enables us to take another technical conversation off the table and focus in on the business outcome.
So there's a sense of constantly evolving as well and adapting.
Yeah, and I think that's a key component. This space kind of morphs, changes every minute, every hour. But with the technology that we're building that is very modular in nature, it allows us to plug into different aspects that might be required by a brand, whether that's privacy, whether that's throughput, whether that's connecting to other blockchains. Cardano is a great example where we've now got a bridge in place, or going to have a bridge in place that allows us to talk to that network. We can start to offer a full end-to-end stack for the brands to work with.
Okay. From a personal point of view, what are some of the challenges you see within your own industry?
I think the biggest challenge in our industry is trust. The trust of who are you working with, what experience do these people have, can they talk our language? And I think from my perspective, working within Zilliqa Group, we've got a lot of old heads who understand what it takes to drive transformation. But then on the other side, we've got a lot of young employees as well that keep us up to date with the market trends. So I think it's important to be able to straddle both sides of it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to keep up and essentially offer the solutions to the brands. And especially in a market where you don't maybe have a finger on the pulse around what's coming, we can offer the value and insight that protects brands in terms of reputation, but also offers the opportunity for them to come to market with something that's slightly different. And when you think about luxury and exclusivity, having that is a key component for brands trying to activate in the space.
Where do you see Zilliqa blockchain, Zilliqa group, yourself in 5 years?
If Zilliqa, from a blockchain perspective, can be ubiquitous and be behind the scenes, so nobody comes to me and sits here and asks me about blockchain, I think that would be a massive step forward in terms of our journey. And then from a Zilliqa group perspective, I think the gents have talked about being the enabler for a lot of brands to drive growth and innovation in their space. If we can be seen as one of the go-to brands, Zilliqa Group as the Web3 brands that enables businesses to flourish, that would be a really exciting and rewarding thing to have.
Within your industry, there seems to be a lot of gatekeepers. People don't want to give away too much. How do you see it?
Yeah, blockchain from a community standpoint is very tribal. But the reality is, for brands and institutions wanting to come into blockchain, there needs to be a level of interoperability. This could be around liquidity. This could be around de-risking, working with a specific blockchain. And very much from a Zilliqa standpoint, we've always been around delivering interoperability. We've got bridges that link us to other chains like Cardano or to the Ethereum, onto Polygon. And very much when we're talking to brands and why they're comfortable working with Zilliqa, it's really about this kind of ethos whereby we are interoperable, we are trying to drive an ecosystem, and that gives brands and businesses a lot of comfort working with us as a blockchain provider.
So, sorry, just from my own benefit, so you're talking about compatibility with others, is that right?
Yeah, so if you think about Microsoft, you think about Cisco, you think about Oracle, historically they would never allow any integration. You need a system integrator to enable that capability. We're very much around having the bridges or the infrastructure to support being able to talk to those other brands. So rather than kind of look back at history and see what the big players have done in the past, the new tech is very much around democratization and interoperability to drive growth.
But surely some competitors would see that as a disadvantage.
I think some competitors do in terms of those that are short-sighted, but I think if you are a serious player and you're looking to drive businesses to build in your chain, if you don't offer interoperability and access to other marketplaces, it's going to be very hard to kind of work with those